in her role as Annie January versus, she's in her Starlight role. So she throws a couple of things at us in that regard. Now, Marvin Milk obviously is kind of the same character all the time. And they have an interesting kind of dynamic that, exists between the two of them outside of pretty much everyone else in the crew and like in the boys, right? They do have a unique kind of like, they always end up, usually if Hughie's off with Butcher, these two are paired up, right? And usually just for operational purposes, they end up riding together. Like they went to Hero Gasm together, right? And I feel like they kind of developed, them having to roll together. They've been on a couple of missions and they've been in some tight spots together. So like the trust between Annie and Marvin, it's real. I think they actually have a real relationship here, even in how they deal with each other. And it says a lot, her being a Soup and his like, mission against Soups. It says a lot. Like this isn't lost that they still manage to have this relationship. And even beyond that, these two are like really opposite. They're really polar, her being a Soup, him being anti the Soups. Then like even culturally beyond that, they're very different, right? And we get to see it. Like if you really pay attention to the details of all the characters, like I know you've been watching Marvin and his character development over the time and how upfront he is about who he is. He does, the t-shirt thing, which are always statements. He usually does like a lot of hip hop, a lot of culture stuff. And when they got out of jail, this last time they got out of jail, he doesn't have that. All that's taken away from him, and he's got like the Britney Spears t-shirts, which how they're even big enough for him, I don't know. So they've carefully crafted him as, still keeping his connection to his culture, his family history, all that stuff. Like when we hear about his grandfather with the typewriter, a lawyer, just banging after these big firms. We think about like, the Freedom Riders. We think about that era where they were trying to take it and be more politically minded and how they're going to be working within the legal system to affect him. So I see who his grandfather is, and that's the image that he really holds on to. So Marvin himself, he represents a lot of like black. Obviously, like just being his size, right? Being black himself. His story tells a lot about black experience here in the States, right? So it really does. And he can kind of take you on history. If you're paying attention, you kind of get a little bit of history, backstory, like what it was like for if you're like, it was rough living around Soups. It's even worse if you're black living around Soups, right? And we've seen a couple of it, right? How that really goes. So when these two characters are paired, her being more Midwest, the white Midwestern girl who's performing the Britney Spears, and then that would be something that he would end up having to rock later. It's a lot, right? So we see a little bit, and so it was kind of a brilliant pairing between these two. Obviously, there's no romance, and this is where we get a really like pure relationship. There's no romance here. There's no like rivalry here. There's no like manipulative dynamics to their relationship. They have one of the most pure relationships of all. I don't want anything from you, so we're in this together, and we relate to this together, right? So this, and it's not even like a trauma bond that they share. They have more of an understanding. Again, they're coming at it from very different angles. So the fact that they're able to relate to each other really says a lot. And what she gets from him is he's more grounded. He might be the most grounded person that she knows. Her mother obviously was like woohoo. Her mom was out there like maybe she wasn't out there. She got you into the league. Everything your mom was plotting on doing, you actually did it, right? So the mom was not pie in the sky. The mom was being realist. But what Marvin represents, but she was out there. Like, she was out there, though, right? She was swing big. Her pops clearly was so, affected by that he couldn't stay around for the betterment of his daughter and went out and started a whole family. Like, he couldn't shake her out of it, so he gave up on her. So she was surrounded by nonsense. I mean, not nonsense, but in this fake world for a whole lot longer. To be interrupted when she gets her first day at the boys, and they're using her like a sex doll, right? And like just for understanding, the comic book version is a lot worse. Okay, because the comic book version, it's not just the Deep, right? It's the Deep, it's Homelander, and it's Black Noir. Okay, so she ends up having to blow all three of these guys day one. Like, you just got here, go on, get down and get this business done. Like, that's how it goes, right? So an even more shocking, kind of like introduction into the boys. And she handles it, right? She handles it without obviously she's jacked up behind it. So when she finally gets to Marvin, and again, Hughie, like, she gets Hughie, and I know Hughie becomes her emotional anchor, but they're both really screwed up. Like, these are two, like, Hughie is extremely, like, we're not giving him enough credit for how unstable Hughie really is, right? What he's embarked upon is a red flag. What he's turned into, even though he's held on to being Hughie, I don't know if he's ever resolved with Robin's death. I don't know if he'll ever be resolved with Robin's death. I don't know if he'll ever be resolved with his mother issues, his mother abandonment issues. I don't know if he'll ever resolve what happened to his father. Okay, I'm going to lay that all out there on the table on my man. I don't know if he ever actually gets past any of that stuff. And there's not necessarily there's not necessarily like an easy path. Like, this stuff can't be ignored. How your pops died, like your mom leaving you, that's therapy unto itself, right? Your mom leaving you is a therapy session, right? So we get that, okay? But I haven't seen you have that therapy session. I've seen you add a lot of trauma onto your life. In addition to that, Annie's life, like her trauma, man, you got a lot, because her trauma goes at the core because of how her mom was and how kind of her pop does. So her trauma is really at its core. So someone like MM, who represents like stability, like, I know it's weird, but he's probably the most grounded person out of the three, out of the group. I'm sorry. So that's what Marvin represents. He like, to her, I saw this relationship as, big brother. Like, he's coming at, like he does with a lot of people. We even saw it with the really cute Indian girl when they went and poisoned that guy when they tested the V. Remember the Indian girl there, and he like helps her get away because he's like, I understand you. I see you. You're caught. You're just a regular person. You're a lot like me. And he sees her more as like big brother, pops. He has a daughter, so he can kind of speak that. So that's what he gives her. He keeps her constantly reminded of don't give up. Don't start to be the people that you hate. It's important that you don't surrender to that. Like, stay connected to actual people. Don't let your rage turn you into Butcher, which is the main thing. Like, everyone's like, whatever you do, don't be Butcher, right? For everyone. That's the win for everyone, is as long as you don't become Butcher, right? And for her, he also gets a lot from her, because we've seen him go through a point where he gets, very cynical. He really gets very cynical. He starts to identify, like because him and, like, at the end of the day, he does have a connection with Butcher. He does have a very powerful connection with Butcher. While he talks a lot more against Butcher, you follow Butcher this entire time. When he came to get you, against everything you knew about Butcher, you still win, right? You still win. And when he went into his kind of darker place recently, that he's kind of just put himself out of, he and Butcher were more lock in step. Like, they were running, they were joking more together. So I think he does have a little bit more of that Butcher side than he likes to acknowledge, but he's very conscious of, no matter what, don't be like Butcher. For everyone, that's his message. Whatever you do in life, if Butcher would do it, start to question it. So there's a lot going on in this relationship, because on the scene, we automatically get this like kind of, you know, the racial tension of it, like the gender issues. Honestly, like I'd be afraid to roll with Starlight by myself anywhere, right? Like that's just something that we're conditioned into. Honestly, like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that, right? Like there's a whole segment of people who are like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that for a lot of reasons. But he's different because, you know, it's just somehow they blend together. He's kind of paternal. He's very controlled, and I think, and she identified all the like the ticks in him because he's easier to read than everyone else because he's not really hiding who he is. He's not really hiding who he is. So you see Marvin's like, you know, all of his ticks, like the hand sanitizer, right? Like all that stuff is right up front. So with him, he's the easiest if you pay attention to him, what you're getting, right? So she gets away from all like, you know, the manufactured masculinity that she sees at Vought. Everyone who's like, it's a cock show up at Vought, right? Like all of them. Whereas Marvin moves around with like a more subtle kind of you know, movement. So yeah, hang on. Like 10 minutes. So I think what she gets out of him is that sense, like he is more big brother to her. He is more like he talks to her paternally, you know, in that regard. And I think she kind of gives him psychologically what he misses with his daughter, right? Like Hughie often approaches Annie emotionally because of his anxiety, his fear of losing her, right? So he's always going to be a little more guarded in what he says, although he's been off the hook. But Marvin, again, because their relationship isn't that, he's not afraid of losing her, he can be more honest. So she actually becomes one of his safest spaces. He doesn't judge her like her parents do. They don't have that baggage. There's nothing